Yesterday I discussed, about, resisting the devil and the devil would flee. And, the Son of God's reason for being or for coming here is to destroy the works of the devil. And when we see the works of the devil, we have to understand our part, the role that we play, as those that may adhere to a certain teaching or have the certain ability to act on behalf. What role do we play in destroying those works? You know, one thing, first that humanity likes to do is, to discredit people. This is one of the acts of the devil. Deception is a form of discrediting is a form of deception. So humanity tends to take the works of others and not acknowledge them, and also they would like to give them their works to other people, which is another form of deception. So they like to re-author certain things, and what I can use as an example of destroying the works of the devil is if you have a friend that is that's using a certain substance, and that substance is destroying them, and you take action to help them remove that substance from their life, and then they go on another course because of that action. They take some you do something to deter them from using that drug, and that's a form of destroying the works of the devil. And do they give you credit for that? 9 times out of 10 they wouldn't. That's just human nature. This is one thing that they like to do, that humanity likes to do, is not give people that's amongst them credit for what they do. You don't do it for seeking credit, but it would be morally uplifting, or it would be appeasing to a person to be credited with certain great works in people's lives. The other day, I showed up at a family member's house, and when they see me come, they have ran, like to go and hide something. I'm not sure. You can be paranoid, but when I came in there, I came unexpected. I showed up unexpectedly, and when I was there, they was having a party in there. It was like a big gathering, a get together. Yeah, I wasn't invited. I wasn't invited, but when I got there, somebody had got up from the table and said, "Oh," and they ran and they went in their room, because sometimes I go in their room, and one thing about me is that I'm not a thief, but I could have been privy to certain information that people was actually trying to hide from me. And like I said, if people know that people are hiding stuff from you, and have information that's pertaining to you, and they don't really do nothing, maybe because they're under a certain gag order because of what they signed up for, they're just as guilty as people that are hiding stuff from you by knowing that things are being hidden from you. But yeah, I seen that yesterday. I went by my mother's house, and they was having a big get together over there, and she had got up from the table, and she ran in her room while I was in the living room talking to her company. She got up and she ran, and that's one thing about me, that something is being hidden from you. And like I said, if people know that things are being hidden from you, or people are trying to plan certain things about you, then I'm not sure. Like I keep trying to get y'all to understand. I'm not sure if y'all got the memo, but I can't be touched. No one can touch me. I'm, as plainly as I can tell you, as plainly as I can state this to you, no one here can touch me. And this is the decree of God, the God that everybody believe in. Nobody here can touch you. Nobody. And as a child, you're told that. That's relayed to you. I can see if I don't know that. I can see if that never been relayed to me. But I'm not sure if y'all got the memo. I'm not sure if the rest of the world got the memo, which I believe they know. I believe that it's a certain group of people that know that everybody here cannot be touched. If there was somebody or people that can be touched, it wouldn't be a statement that says you cannot touch nobody that's here for me. Touch not what belongs to me. So that's one thing about you, is that you belong to God. You don't belong to the world. If you belong to the world, then the world will love you as they love their own. But I don't belong to the world, and the world knows that it did some sort of violation against God at some point in time, and we have to make those wrongs right. There's no way around it. We have to make those wrongs right. And one of her friends was over there, which is her friend because of a friend that I had. And you would think that they're all in cahoots with each other because of their rapport. But her friend is only her friend on the strength that my friend, he's a genuine friend of mine. And this is who's actually apartment I had, who I'm in now. He moved to Africa, and you got his apartment because he moved to a whole different region, and he moved there because it was a lot of he wasn't feeling America. America was on a decline. He's been saying that for years. Like America is a wicked place. So he would feel kind of paranoid about his neighbors, and even his mother. But yeah, they was friends only on the fact that me and him was friends. So her friend came over there, and she didn't know that I was over there, and she told everybody in there that she hasn't been smoking. It's been 3 months since she's been smoking, and that's a blessing, but what she didn't tell them is that I encouraged her. I told her, because she used to send me to the store for her, and she used to get cigars, and she would smoke cigars. So I told her, that she was going to have to stop. She had to make a mental note that she would have to stop, and I laid it on her like, yo, we have to stop these. And I'm not sure whether they were sending me to the store to get these cigars so it appears that I'm buying them, because they got cameras everywhere, and if you're buying a bunch of cigars, that might seem as though you're buying a whole bunch of blunts so you can smoke bud, because I believe that they're trying to make it appear as though I smoke bud, like just like marijuana, all day long, all night long, all year long, or just buying so many. Like you would buy all these cigars, and if the camera's watching you in the store and watching you everywhere you go, you'll appear that you're actually buying these cigars. So they're trying to make it seem as though you have a certain drug problem when you actually don't. And that's one thing that I understand about one of my brothers. They like to try to get me to smoke bud, and I tell them I don't smoke. I believe that they get paid for every time that they can make it appear as though I'm smoking bud or doing something like that. So That's just me. I could be wrong, but what I do know is that she didn't say that. Yoshi came over there and he laid it on me, and what I thought about it, and I did. I stopped. I stopped for like, you know, 3 months. Just to hear that, not even being in the, not even knowing that you're in the vicinity, but to give somebody that kind of, you know, acknowledgement for sparking an idea inside of your head, and it triggers you to stop, you know, um, smoking cigars because it would have been a detrimental thing on your health. That's kind of, like, yeah, I did a great thing today. Even though you don't need that kind of validation from nobody, because you know what you actually do. But what I was telling you was about one of my friends. I also was able to get him off of, what you call PCP and angel dust. If the drug didn't have an effect on him to the point where it would have been a destructive thing in his life, and I wouldn't have been able to speak on it. But because I seen that it was destructive, like literally destructive, I was in a car with him one day, and he was driving, and he just stopped the car, you know, and he just turned to me and he asked me, "What is this? What is?" He kept asking me, and I was like, "Yo, drive, bruh." And he was just incoherent. He was incoherent to the point where, I was getting like loud with him, like, "Yo, bro, what is you doing?" Because I met people throughout the course of my life that did it, and they would tell you like, "Yo, don't ever do this right here. Don't do this." So, like the effects of that. Like, you would never try it because you're what you call saved. You're protected from that or anything that's detrimental to you. That would destroy you, your mental capacity and your ability to reason and function. So, um, I was able to get him to not be on that by, relaying that to his mom. Like I told his mother, he's his mother's only child. So when I told her that that's what he does, it wasn't like you ratted him out. You told people, because you're concerned, you care. You told his mother, who cares. That's her only child. And if these things go unaddressed, and you're doing this while you're driving, you're doing this in the street, something can happen to you to the point where you could end up, you know what I mean, and that would have a negative impact on your mother. So I was able to relay that to his mother, and his mother was able to get him the actual help that he needed. So now he has, because he never worked before, he didn't have to, he was spoiled. So now he works in he got a real prominent job through his mother. His mother got him this job that he has, so now he's working and preoccupied with that job. So, these are some miracles that you actually do. These is what you would call miracles, certain things that is a divine, it was a divine intervention. Like you intervene because of a nature that you have. It's not a human nature. Humans don't care. It's not their nature to care. It's not their nature to tinker with stuff that they feel as though they don't have any kind of say over. It's not there. I don't care. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let the government do it. I don't care. I'm going to let the police do it. I don't care. It's not my family. I don't care. It's not me. This is, the way that it's common knowledge. And this is the reason why I always tell you that, common knowledge or common sense is, part of the problem. You need to have, exceptional, individual, and extraordinary sense. So you're able to do things that's out of the ordinary, that's extraordinary. If it's the ordinary, then You don't need to, you know what I mean? Why you do it if it's ordinary? We have to be extraordinary. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about. Like, when there's a issue going on or a topic of discussion, and your knowledge is as common as my knowledge, how much information can you gather from different people if only thing that we're saying is the same exact thing? This is the reason why, I'm about to show you this video, because I made this, I made this video, probably in 2020. And here we have, again, the past coming back to the present to show you about the future, to explain certain things. But yeah, I wanted to show you this video because, like I said, for me, it's not embarrassing. It's not embarrassing, but it's embarrassing, on behalf of the people. So with that, I'm just going to show you this little video, and you gotta understand it's a train coming, so bear in mind that. It's a kid, just walking around, just walked by me. I didn't know. You gotta understand, this isn't anything scripted. It's not set up. This isn't anything that you planned, and this just happened. When you go out there and you make these recordings, it's to show people how to take initiative, how to act when you have the ability to act. Like I told you before, when there was a drug, when there was crack, when there was dope, you wasn't in a position to do anything about it. But now that there's a fentanyl crisis, and you're able-bodied, and you have the ability to do, you got the means of transportation, you don't have the money. Oh, I don't have the money. Let me take all this jewelry off, and let me go and pawn this jewelry so I can have a means of financial support while I'm out there. So this is the reason why you don't see any of these chains on me, because I gave up all that jewelry to go and do, some works on behalf of God. So you'll see in this video, the degree or how you're supposed to aid and assist the righteous, while the wicked is trying to you'll get it.
Because that's where leaders come from. The people before you don't have it in them to do nothing about their situation. You could, because you got that type of power. So don't be like that, bro. You gotta get some of your homeboys, man, and be like, man, I don't like how I look out there, man. Let's go and do something. You know what I mean? You get the reward for that. You get the blessing. You know what I mean? By the universe. You know what I'm saying? Because this shit, it don't make no sense out here, bro. That's what you say, certain business go a long way. Yeah. Alright, bro.
But you see on the shirt, God is good. So you go around, you parade that where you go. You reflect that, where you go. It's not a shirt that you could buy and just, put it on. You actually, drew that on there. But what you did is you stopped a young man, and you allowed him to know, like, son, don't be like this, bruh. Don't be like that. Like what? Bruh, you just walking by this stuff and you see it out here like that. If sometimes you have to take the initiative to do certain things when other people don't want to do it. Sometimes you have to do it. This is how you become a leader. This is how you become the ones that set forth change in your environment. Even if you got to get your homeboys, and say, bruh, I don't like how it look out there, bruh. Let's go and do something about that. Sometimes you have to do that. And it might not start with him right then and there, but at least you was able to give him that wisdom. Like sometimes it have to be you, because now we're relating or we're waiting on somebody else to do something about a situation that I can do something about. If I can take the initiative to do something about it, I'm gonna do it. That's just the way it is. I have to do it, because it's in me to do something about it. you know so that's what you wanted to show. Just this alone allows you to know, like, there's people that go about spreading good news, and they're not just spreading the good news, they're being the good news as well. In that area, you were the good news because there was nobody else out there that was willing to step to somebody and tell them, like, hey, sometimes you have to do it, because if you don't do it, then it won't get done. And if it do get done, it won't be done genuinely. It'll be done because it's a part of somebody's job to do it. If I just shared a little short with Dick Gregory, and Dick Gregory was telling you that there's people that allow black men allow black boys to sell drugs on the street. They're not the police, but I'm going to do something about people being out here on the corner where my grandmother has to go to the store, where children have to go out there and play, where people, you understand, it's out here in these particular streets. It was allowed to be ran like that, which if you understand that area, this was the work of the devil. The wicked was allowing this to be like that, and I always try to specify, I'll try to tell you who was actually responsible for these events being like that. It's the church. With the church's reason for them to be out there was when they do clean it up out there, they'll say that this was the reason why Jesus did this, or they would fictitiously impose Christ on you by creating certain events out there, certain wicked events, and then clean them up. That's wrong. That's not how it's done. You don't do nothing like that in order to bring forth change. You don't create corruption and then accredit it to something else and then bring forth change. If it's genuinely like that and you can't do nothing about it, and this is what it is that you actually use to bring forth change, then that's when you give that credit. But I was able to see that, and this is it is what it is. But that's just what it is. And you got all sorts of scriptures and stuff on your shirt, and so you go out there and you show them how to be active. That's what you do. You go and show them how to be active out there. And right now we just setting it up, but when we get here, you'll see, these are some of the tools that I had bought when I went out there. The blower, the pick, the grabber, and I went out to Patterson the other day, and I saw, a person. He was in his work clothes, but he was using the grabber to pick up trash. And I was like, what, that's good, man. And where it actually comes from. Some of these ideas were sparked, and you was very instrumental in certain of these acts or these ideas being created and these jobs being created, because I actually created a job out here. I created work out there, for people. I created work for like the people that was out there, just in the street. As you can see, this man right here is on the street. He's kind of like paralyzed, and this woman right here, she's just, this is actually a church, whether you understand that or not. This is actually a church, you know. So um yeah, I'm about to show you what went down over here. But sometimes you have to excuse some people's delivery, because their 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 delivery is kind of extreme, and if they're not extreme, then at times, but yeah, let's check it out. Gold, a little bit of gold, just in case y'all want to. Say I had to offer them coffee, like, son, 7-Eleven was right here in this. If you turn that corner and look in the cut right here, that was the 7-Eleven. You was gonna go buy him some coffee, breakfast to get him up, but it was actually the drug that had him laid out like this. And yeah, so you know. You want coffee? He said he was gonna do something to me. He said he was gonna get up. He was going. I told him, like, yo, can't nobody do nothing to me, bro. Can't nobody. This is one thing you gotta understand. People always talk about the promise of God and what God promised you. That's one thing God promised me. Nobody here better not do anything to me, and nobody can. That means that nobody can do anything to me. That's why I always have to specify. I'm not sure if y'all got the memo. Maybe my family don't got the memo. My family don't really know who I am, because they really never experienced who I really, 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 really am, And because, just because that's your brother or your mother, that don't mean that they know you, Just because that's your brother don't mean that's going to be your best friend. Me and all of my brothers had different friends and different personalities and different ways of seeing things. So just because that's your brother don't mean that they're like you, they're anything like you, or that they would try to learn who you are or try to find out who you are. But one thing that I know about, my brothers is that who they are is, I played a role in who they actually are. One of my brothers, he would have been silly. To this day, he probably would have been a goofball. But, certain actions that we took as children allowed him to incorporate another, a certain defense mechanism in him. Other than that, life would have beat him up, left and right, because the way that my grandmother was raising him, she was kind of babying him, and spoiling him. And it wasn't a mother's spoil. It was over a mother's spoil, and she was doing that to him, and he really didn't experience anything, any kind of like hardship, like growing up until a certain point of time. But that's another story for another story. But yeah, right? Is This is God's world. This is God's kingdom. You understand? He tried to over overshadow that fact. That this is God's world. Don't man. This is Kensington. This is what happens out here in Kensington. Where you from? I'm not from out there. You gotta understand. I don't know nothing about Philly. This is my first time ever in Philly. But what I do know is that I had the means to get out there. It's an hour and some change away from where I'm at. I can go and be some assistant to that area. Let me get my hands dirty and let me go out there. I don't know nothing about Philadelphia. But what I do know is that when I went out there was a sign on the building that said the glory of God to the people of Kensington. So I seen that out there, which only indicated that, so if you're with God, you have a right to be out there and show the glory of God to the people out there. If they don't want to show it, then you show it. So I did see that on the building out there. And if it said this is the devil's playground, anybody with God stay out, then I would have said, hey, I'm out of place out here. I don't have no reason to be out here. But this is the reason why it only solidified my reason for being out there. You understand? So you see, like, they got churches out here. They got people going out there preaching. They got, and it's ran rampant with all sorts of drug usage and drug addiction and homelessness and just all out lawlessness. So you went out there because you wanted to show people that this is how God wants you to be, like this, hands on, doing something about it. So this is the reason why you went out there. I mean, this is God's kingdom, This is God's kingdom. Excuse my usage. You gotta understand, this is a time where, I still don't, I still got it in me. But like I said, it's not what you take in, it's what you put out that defiles you. But this was at a time when that's what it was, and that's what it still is. If you're prompted to get on that time. So and here you'll have a couple. You'll see what they do. You'll see what they do. You'll see what they do. See, they crossed the street. You deeded their course that day. You understand? They was going to walk up here. See this guy just laying here. But what they see is someone intervening with this whole setup. You see how it works. You see how this is what I try to tell the guy, the young kid earlier. He'll get the blessing from that. He'll get the blessing from that by doing certain acts now. It'll have an effect later, by me, making a statement here. it deeded their cause, because they was going to go straight up this street. They was going to walk straight up this street, and but now their cause has been deeded. They're crossing the street because they don't want to see, this right here. They don't want to bring. They don't know what's going to happen right here. But what this is you working on behalf of God. This guy is saying, no, this is the way that it's supposed to be out here. If you believe in your heart that you're doing the right thing, on behalf of God, because it needs to be done, then he's intervening with this. You're on good time. He's on bad time, because you're intervening with something that's good. He could have said, bruh, get up, bruh, let that man clean up out here. He said, nah, bruh, this don't care nothing about that, man. It's Kensington. This is what happens out here. But as opposed to doing that, he transgressed against what was good. See it on the back of the shirt. God is good. So if God is good and you're opposing God, then what are you? If you're opposing good, then what are you? Leave things alone, and let the devil have his way. No, your whole thing is to destroy. If you're, you got a certain teaching, then your whole objective is to destroy the works of the devil. Whether it's turning off the TV that the devil controls, it's turning off music that the devil controls, it's cleaning up area that the devil controls, how the devil controls the area through drug, through disease, through poverty, through homelessness. This is how the devil has works out there. Who's doing something about homelessness? Oh, the homeless shelters. Nah, the homeless shelters are set up by them. They need homelessness in order for them to have shelters. They don't have homelessness, then they won't be able to shelter people. How about homes, period? How about homes? How about this be called a home? And you have to be homeless in order for you to live here. And as you live here, now you make a transition to your own home. But how about homes, period? How about home? I'm going home. You on the street? Go home. Go home. Like I told you, there's thousands of abandoned buildings throughout the course of this world that can be used as homes, not homeless shelters, not just a place where we shelter the homeless. Homes that can be turned into homes, and no one actually zero ends on that. Nobody zero ends on that. These billionaires don't zero in on that. And like I said, there's ways for you to get kickbacks. There's ways for people to benefit from that. If you take these buildings, you get contractors to actually input their time and work, have them able to get certain kickbacks at the end of the year, like tax credits, for them just putting that in. And this goes on from their family to the next family, from them to that generation. So it's a generational thing. It's a generational thing that you set up because you took the initiative to put time and effort into building something. And as these places become better, now you combat homelessness. Now everybody that you thought was homeless has a home. They have homes, and it's because of the work that you set up this time, and it has a trickling effect all the way from this time to 50, 60, 100 years ago, all because of the act that your father did or your mother did at a certain point in time, and now the children is reaping the reward of that. Their children is reaping the reward of that. How you getting this money? Every week you get all this money. Every month you get all this money because, in 2025, my father had signed up for to turn these abandoned buildings into homes for the homeless. Yeah, your family had something to do with that. It's the reason why we don't have no homeless. Oh man, if you was alive back in 2025, probably back in all the way back to the early 1900s, and you seen the homelessness, you wouldn't believe what type of time the world was on back then. But now, you wouldn't even believe that because of where we're at now, that they had homelessness back then. All because of the acts that a person did at a certain time. You understand? But that's just you being idealist. You being idealistic, and just having hope for the future. But you'll see. Excuse my usage, y'all. Now, the woman came. The woman seen how the escalation of these events could have got real. It could have it could have escalated to something. I mean, more grand, physical. It could have got. If he would have did anything, he would have tried to get physical with me. It could have went down right then and there. Who knows what he had in his bag? Who knows? You understand? Who knows what he had? Could have had a knife on him. I've confronted other people that had knives on them. In certain other areas, they had knives on them. But I don't fear. You gotta understand. People be like, yo, you don't have confidence, or you don't. Nah, I told you, I'm just non-confrontational, and when I do confront people, bruh, my energy is just as great as my peace. My wrath is just as great as my peace. So don't think that a person that's peaceful don't have a certain level of wrath. My peace is controlling my wrath. You understand? So this is one thing I know about me, that yeah, me. Come on, bruh. I choose peace. I choose peace. And this is what I give to people. I give peace to people. I gave old boy. I was being jocular, like, get up, bruh. Come on, man, get up. Like, cause he can get up. And as you're gonna see, it's a female that sees what's escalating, and she comes and she says, "Hey, bruh, get up, get up." You understand? So. That's what happens. God, my supervisor. God is supervising me. If God's, been supervising me since I was a child, then God's supervising me now. God don't abandon you. You abandon God. God don't forsaken you. You forsaken God. So, he didn't understand that about me. He was thinking maybe you just out here working and go somewhere else and work. Nah, dog. You see what my shirt say, dog. You never seen that. You can't. He couldn't read, but I allowed him to know, like, son, this is God's kingdom. Regardless who's out here running rampant, God controls this. God controls the power that the devil has. And if it's getting too carried away to the point where a righteous person sees this on a consistent basis, just people going around recording the areas and, not doing nothing about it, you wicked too. You wicked. I could see if it's all the way in Japan somewhere. I could see if it's all the way in Russia somewhere. I can't really do nothing about that. I can speak out about it. I can try to touch people's heart through a camera or something, but as far as you actually being hands-on about certain things, then you really can't do too much about that, and that's the thing. When there was something going on in Chicago, when the kids was killing each other in Chicago, when there was a big gang war out there. You was making preparations to go out there, and at the same time that you was going out there is when they sent, that female into my life. And then she told me like, no, I don't like that. I don't like that video you made, and that kind of threw you off, because you need, it's not that you need any kind of, support, but you would want, that energy to be reciprocated through, the people that you're amongst. And if you believe that you're there to help this person, because that's what you signed up to do. You signed up to help that person, but that person was signed up to help you not carry out, certain things that you needed to carry out, by saying that they needed certain assistance, or that they needed certain help. So these are some of the things that I encountered. But yeah, I see, I really didn't feel like showing you this video, but because it has a message in it, that if there's to be a kingdom, you don't allow the devil to give you the kingdom. You don't allow the devil to hand over the keys to you. The devil is, very deceptive and wicked. They don't hand anything over. Even if they have a short reign, they not just gonna stay. The devil's not an honest being. The devil's not honest. It's the liar and the deceiver. So he could deceive. You can be deceived that, okay, I'm out of my seat. I change my seat, but they'll just replace that with another wicked person. And instead, this is what they have been doing from time after time after time. Just changing seats, and they prompt the old generation of demons leave and create a new generation of demons. This is how they have a stronghold. They don't leave and then put angels in their seat. The angels have to come and assume seats, So, this is what I wanted to show y'all, because, we just spoke about that yesterday. I just shared that with y'all. So I'm sharing this with you, because I told you that I had it before, that, you went out there and people might not act like they see the works that you do, and they actually do see it, and that's the thing. You have people that go around, cleaning up and, trying to make the world a better place, but they don't get no kind of, if they went viral, if I was to go viral, and get the money that these people that go viral is getting, these $10,000 a month and these $1 million and stuff like that, like Damon Darling, going around harassing people in stores and going viral off of that, and then making a lucrative income, and just going to stores, just giving people money in stores that already have money. What would you think, the result would be for a person that's going around cleaning up with that type of impact and that type of status? If he says that he's this, then he gets money and be the same way as y'all. He's not like that. He just proved that there's no righteousness in the world. We are doomed. If the church ain't gonna do it, then this man that's going around cleaning up ain't gonna do it. That gives his last he only has a little and still give his last to homeless. What would become of him if he had thousands or millions and he doesn't do anything that he says that he's about? Then he's a wicked person. But what happens when, videos of you going around cleaning up and addressing people and stepping to people, stepping to police, and, what happens when that goes viral and you don't do anything to bring forth, real change? What happens then? But what happens when you do that? Does real change come about? Is real change enforced? Is real change being enforced? Of course it is. This is the reason why certain people are limited, because they know that the moment that they're able to do, things will get done. So they have to limit a certain people, because if not, then, hey, if not, he'll change things. He'll be able to change things. There's 5 homeless people in my city, at least around about 5, probably less. You don't think that if a person like me, I have everything that I want in here, and even if I didn't, I'm still content because I have peace. I have peace. People talk about, a breakthrough. My breakthrough been here. I have peace. I understand what peace is. I understand how to control my peace. I understand what peace is. That's all I need. And as long as I'm at peace and I can create peace, then, that's all I need. But there's probably like 5 homeless people in my city. My mayor's out here. We've got a mayor in this city, that can't do nothing about it. One sleeps right across the street from the police department. Can't do nothing about it. One homeless person, that, you wanted to do something for, was found dead out here. And I have suspicions about, the people responsible for that. People will poison people's food. People will offer people food and poison their food, because that's their wicked people. Wicked people do wicked things. You understand? Because first they tried to lie and say that, kids beat, because the area that we're in, it's this Jewish area. It's a Jewish area, and nothing goes on over here in this hood. So first they tried to lie and say that, some kids beat him up, and this ain't that type of area. This ain't that type of area where kids would jump a homeless man. This is not, I'm telling y'all the God honest truth, this is not that type of area. Somebody gave that man something and he was found dead. He's not a drug addict, he was just homeless. But somebody gave that man something and he ended up dead. That's what happened to him. That's what happened, if you want to be technical. And I know that because that's what my spirit tells me. And the other day I seen a cat. It was cold, and you wanted to my cat needs a friend, because the dog be bugging me, bruh. Dog bugs me. So you want to bring another cat home for your cat. But these cats they gotta choose you. You just can't snatch a cat up and bring them. The cat has to choose you. So I seen a cat one day, and it was cold outside, and I was going to Family Dollar anyway to get my cat some food, and I seen it, and I was like, I'll be right back. But as I'm walking by, it was a group of kids coming, like a group of kids, and all black mask on and the whole nine, So I walked up some, and they was walking by me. I said, yo, they better not mess with that cat. So I stopped and I turned around to watch them, make sure they didn't mess with that cat, because kids have a history of being cruel. So when I turned around and I looked, they was over there, petting the cat, like trying to pet the cat, like as opposed to being mean to the cat. So that only indicates that people aren't as wicked as we think they are. So if it was kids that's like that, don't believe that it'd be kids that'll beat especially that homeless dude. He ain't beat for that. You understand? But people do offer him food. You understand what I'm saying? People that I know offer people food, and people around them don't really be good. They don't really be good. They be, you understand? Y'all can get what I'm trying to tell you, But I wouldn't eat from them. I don't care what they make. I ain't eating nothing from nobody, But yeah, this is just something that I wanted to show y'all. But a female came as she seen, things escalating. She came and we saw, things escalating. We seen things escalating, but this guy was saying that he was paralyzed, but yet he got up and he walked. You know, he got up and he walked. You understand? But these are things that you would normally have to do on behalf of the righteousness of God. You would have to address the works of the devil. It's not them. It's not them. It's not their fault. You know, like I said, it has a source. That's the reason why I let him know I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at nobody, dog. It's just things that just have to be done. Like if they was to do it themselves, you know, it would be no need for me to come out there and do it to help them do it. It would be no reason for me to come out there unless you just want to be, you know, just assistive. But if people was out there doing it, I wouldn't have seen it to the point where I would have to go out there and be active as well, you know. So that's, you know, just one of the things that, you know, I felt like sharing because, you know, it needed to be shared because it has to be, you have to realize that these things, you can be active about certain things, you know, and you don't have to. It's not about you know, being, let me put a camera on it. Let me no. Sometimes you have to show people, you know, because you are people that want to see miracles. You are people that want to see signs. Doesn't matter who it is. You are people that need to see it in order to believe it, because your faith sometimes is null and void, even though you might say you have faith, but sometimes you might need to see it in order to believe it. You know, this is the reason why a lot of people want Christ to come back, so they can believe that Christ will come back. Some people believe that Christ comes back, and some people want to see it so they can believe it, you know. And it wasn't until Christ, until the events after Christ's death that they believed that Christ was the Son of God. They didn't believe that while they was crucifying him, mocking him, and stoning him, and, you know, casting a lot on his clothes, and, you know, spitting him, and, you know, flagging. They didn't believe that until after, you know, his death, and then it was a sign that they seen. You know, a temple had split, and they said, "Oh man, this must be, you know, the Son of God." So some people need to see certain things. This is the reason why you show people certain things, you know. And there's other people that show certain things, you know, and they do it from a superficial standpoint, and because they're you know, they're in cahoots with the wicked, and you would have to do it from their standpoint. You know, they have people that goes around giving homeless people money, and, you know, just doing it repetitively, but they go viral, and they don't understand that the money they give them, they get, you know, 10 and 20 times that amount just by the videos they make. You know, so it's not about you doing things genuinely. It's because you have an audience, or you have people that's promoting you. You know, you, on the other hand, you ain't got nobody promoting you. You don't need nobody to promote you, because you don't seek validation from man. Man should be like, yo, son, I approve that, without you asking people, yo, like, share, subscribe. Yo, I approve that. He's approved, you know. And whether they do it or not, I'm still approved, because I'm approved by God. You know, if I wasn't, then I wouldn't be who I am, you know. And you gotta understand, people identify you for who you are. You know, that's the reason why you might have certain things like, you know, a star seed. People called you that. A chosen one. People had called me that. Not like me wanting to be called that. People had seen me and identified me as that. An indigo child. People see me and identified me as that. I didn't even know what that was, but somebody said, yo, you're an indigo child. What does that mean? You don't know what label that you're called by man terms. Only thing that you know is that you have a connection to God. And if there's not only God, but a righteous God, a just God, a God of peace, a God of mercy, you know, a God that can, not a God that can't. A God that is very compassionate, because you're compassionate. You have empathy, and you also you see, yo, you can turn up. because God is not no pushover. So a lot of people get that impression about God twisted, and then you have the wicked that bottle that wrath because it's a power, and be that just bottle that wrath, and this is where they become wicked at. They bottle that wrath and use that as a way to get or to do certain things. But we're more peaceful than anything. We are controlled by love. For the love of certain things, not by the love of certain things. You know. So I wanted to share that because it needed to be shared, and what better time than after I just showed you another video about the works of the devil, and what they actually are. And so now you see, just having areas where trash and stuff is not being addressed on a personal level, where you can personally do something about it, even if you gotta say, hey, y'all come here, take these gloves, clean this area up. I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna buy y'all lunch, and I'm gonna give y'all a couple of dollars to put in y'all pockets. Y'all good? Y'all kids hungry? What y'all want to eat? Alright, well, I'm going to get something to eat. By the time I come back, I want all this stuff cleaned up out here. Now you're not only cleaning up the area, you're giving them something to do, constructive, positive, giving them the spirit of care and the spirit of concern, and knowing that the spirit of care and concern has a positive result behind it. I'm getting fed, and I don't know how much he's gonna give me, but I'm about to get some money too, and I'm probably going to be able to buy this game that I always wanted to play, or I'm going to be able to go and buy these shoes that I always want. You get what you put in. You get out of it what you put in. So if you get people to put in, positive actions, they get positive results in return. You don't do it because of that. You do it because of that. So that's just what I wanted to share, man, because it needed to be shared, and yeah. But I actually apologize to y'all, after I cleared everybody out, I apologize.
My bad, y'all.
You apologize. You told him my bad, y'all, because people's watching. But like I said, this came from 2020, and you're just now showing the people, and no one ever saw this before. So yeah, So that's the reason why we asked that, is because we wanted to know, hmm? You. Oh, it's Prison Letters of George Jackson. This is probably like this song is better than any. This is why you can't pass any mediocre rapper off on me, because I know this particular song came from this book, some words out of this book, and you made it rhyme. You didn't even change any words out of it. You just somehow made the words rhyme. But that's not what I'm trying to show you. You're not trying to show anybody that. What you're trying to show is, it really don't matter. Look, 41 minutes ago, deadly mass shooting at New Mexico Park. Come on, dog. You gotta understand. Nobody even checking for none of that stuff because we already know, you know, that the world needs healing, and if the people not gonna heal it, then it's not gonna get healed. It doesn't heal on itself. It doesn't heal by itself. You know, it doesn't. You can't heal it just by doing nothing. You can't do that. That's not how it works. You actually have to take initiative and do something about it. You know, but yeah, I wanted to share that because it needed to be shared. You know, but peace.